Today we come together with a new vision for humanity to co-create a united Earth family. And with this vision and our shared intuition, we have the potential to bring peace on Earth to fruition. We imagine a world where we take care of all of life. And with this intention, we become beacons of light. So let's join together in manifestation to bring about societal transformation. From the heart of humanity, we come together in unity to co-create a united Earth family. From the heart of humanity, we come together in unity to co-create a united Earth family. From the heart of humanity, we come together in unity to co-create. Let's come together, family. From the heart of humanity, we come together in unity to co-create. Let's come together, family.
Welcome back to One by One, another episode. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting extraordinary people, organizations, and movements working to create a more just, compassionate, and peaceful world. Through stories of resilience, visionary ideas, and transformative action, we uncover the way people and communities are shaping a future grounded in harmony, equity, peace, and global unity. And today I would like to introduce my very special friends, Hila Russ-Woodland and Michael Fraser, as we are discussing the topic of education, schooling, homeschooling, unschooling, and community based education. What it really means, what both of them have co created, and how you may get involved for the benefit of your children, our communities, and our society at large. So I would like to, oh, can't find my cursor here right now. Um, Give me a second. It's been stuck in a different screen.
I just want to congratulate you, Michael, for this beautiful new platform that you've created and your passion and vision. It's really amazing to see what you're bringing forth with respect to how you want to introduce humanity to beautiful ideas and ways to connect and take actions.
Beautiful, thank you. And do you want to introduce yourself, Gila, and Michael, and talk a little bit about your background and what inspired you to co-create the New Earth Network and the learning pods and what that means for our communities?
Yes. Shall I start, Michael?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm a mother, I'm an artist, I'm a teacher and educator. I'm speaking to you from beautiful sunny Vancouver, and actually, there's a bug that just came into the living room, so nature is supporting us as well. I love being in the moment. My passion is with supporting expression from the heart and creating learning experiences for people of all ages. And I've started my journey many, many years ago as I was trained to be a teacher. And fast forward after a few years within the system, something in me felt uh, as if I'm not in the right place. And it was a very tough realization after investing so many years in becoming a teacher, knowing that I want to work with children, I want to create a change in their lives, and yet feeling trapped in the system. And I know many educators and teachers that are going through this process, and they feel helpless, and they're just in the system because it's very challenging for them to even think that there are other ways and possibilities. And for me, I was always a critical thinker and an action taker. And really, thanks to my mother, I was always taught to tune into my body and see what things, how does it feel for me? And if something didn't feel right, I was encouraged to create changes and not be afraid to do that. And so the real eye opener for me was when my son started school in kindergarten, and I noticed how his enthusiasm, his natural curiosity, his energetic nature was slowly being dimming down, and I became concerned. And that to me was a turning point where I made a decision to once my last contract of teaching within a system was ended, to start something new. And so I opened my small business, which is called In Wonderland Outdoor Education. And since 2011, I've never looked back, and I love what I do. I have the freedom to decide what will the children at my care and my programs will learn. And I'm very much Waldorf inspired and really into child-led and emergent curriculum, which we can talk later about. So fast forward to 2021 when Michael and I met. Um, as we all know, 2020 was a very um,
Challenging.
turbulent year on this planet where so many things have changed, and the veil was literally been moved away, and we could see a lot of corruption in action. And perhaps, Michael, maybe you want to speak a little bit about how we met and how we started the New Earth Network.
Yeah. So thank you, Michael, for having us and creating this beautiful platform for us to have a good conversation and to be witnessed and to share our connection in this world where things are changing really fast. And I noticed that the public schooling system wasn't really ideal when I was growing up. I did a lot of my true learning by being in action outside of the schooling, doing things that I was passionate about, learning things like math through music and different elements of life that I got what I needed. And school was always a struggle for me. So when I saw that there was even further, uh, locking down of the children's experience through the schooling system to leverage the schooling system to create more control around children, I knew that there had to be another option because I got my education by feeling my own freedom. And a lot of the things that one would have expected me to learn in school, I actually got when I was out of school. I would fall behind when I was in school. And then when I had to use the skills for real life where it actually meant something to me and I was passionate about it, I excelled fast and with passion. Um, so I knew inside my bones that there was a better way of being because I had experienced it just by nature of who I am and how I interact with the world. And, that's not to say that there isn't, um, that public school doesn't work for some people in some ways. But as things got to be more locked down, I connected with Hila because we were both at the Vancouver School Board, raising our concerns, speaking to the parents, speaking to the teachers, speaking to the administration, having a conversation that actually felt very one-sided, where, if you had concerns about children, you were really just talking to a wall and it wasn't being received. So we learned very quickly that trying to change old beast system wasn't necessarily the way to go about it. We really had to change the way that we were doing things as a community. And so I remember Gila saying, New Earth Network at some point, or there was it just came out of our putting our ears to the ground. Where are we going? We're going to the new earth, and we're talking about this place, but we know it, and so we need to start it. And in getting together, we shifted away from the protesting and the complaining and moving into the action taking and gathering community and finding our common values and working out our needs, because I heard it recently said that we have all the tools, we have all the abundance necessary to create what we want, but a lot of what we are working out is coming together into closer community, being interdependent, being able to rely on each other and have our shared core value system. These are the things that is keeping us from acting in this community-centered way. And so a lot of our efforts have been in order to get people together, to be opening up, to do, what people call healing, which to me is just a reharmonization of our communities where we listen to each other, where we share. And so, back to how I got into this, I knew that because I have a son, and his mother and I are not totally on the same page about everything. And I thought, wow, for people who have families that are not on the same page, it would be very hard if there was not an alternative option that was an easy decision. You know, Homeschooling is not an easy decision. So when this was all going down, I suggested that I would homeschool our son. But I mean, that would take a lot of energy and resources to do completely alone, right? And while we might be willing to do that, it's not an easy option for a lot of people. It's a big sacrifice to make that decision. And so, you know I thought, well, in order to create a new world where we can overcome these interpersonal conflicts and be on the same page, we have to have easy options. And so that was where my motivation to develop a community homeschooling network is, that it makes the option easier for people who otherwise might not want to make the decision to pull their kids out of school and go into community homeschooling solely because it's difficult. But if we're but the concept really emerged out of the sharing that we do in kind of settings like potlucks. If everybody's eating their own thing, if everybody's teaching their own independent homeschool, it's very time consuming. It's very labor intensive. It's very focused. It's taking all of our individual focus. But just like in a potluck, if everybody brings food, there's more than enough food because some people eat more, some people eat less. And there's this culture of sharing that's going on. It makes those things that where someone would maybe go without food or someone would be throwing out food less likely, because we're all sharing. And that's really what the concept of that I wanted to bring to community schooling was, is that we don't have to do it alone, that we work better when we bring all of our talents to the table, and it makes it an easier decision for our extended community at large to join with our forces if we step into our power together as a community. So
Wow,
yeah.
wow, wow. Thank you. And there is a lot to unpack. And first of all, I want to express my gratitude to both of you for actually listening, and not just listening to your children, but also listening to the community, and listening to what is really needed. And while I think or believe, I don't, I'm not an expert of it in it, that our schooling system might have evolved over the last 40 years since I went to school. I can only reflect back to what my experience was and how it definitely didn't resonate with my soul, with my being. I never felt heard, I never felt seen, I never felt recognized. I struggled throughout the school system, and I always had to catch up, and it was a burden to me, to the point where I actually had colitis at a young age, and I was 10 or 11 years old, and so it also had a physical impact on me. And when I hear you share whatever you just shared, and I look back into the community that I had when I grew up, like the friends and the parents of my friends. One was a musician, the other one was a carpenter, then there was somebody um who was an who was a pilot. There was another one who was an engineer, and I'm like, wow, if those people would have come together to teach us those different aspects of their knowledge and their purpose and what they did at the time, what a difference it would have made for me. And I would have loved to learn carpentry, and I still love to learn it. And I would have loved to grow up with a deeper sense of music and having that ability. And and so just my deepest gratitude to both of you for really tuning into that and specifically offering a solution. So can you tell me or us or the audience a little bit more about what are learning pods and how can people get involved? And I also, when I went through all your material in preparation for the show today, I also learned that there is an economic um, opportunity for people to step into that and actually turn it into a, I don't, I don't want to call it a business, but yes, a business with that can also have an impact on families. And like you said, Michael, thinking of homeschooling and dedicating whatever 6, 7, 8 hours a day, or solely for the children for the educational purpose, is almost not, it's not realistic for any of us. And so maybe you can share a little bit about how people can get involved and what that specifically is going to look like in terms of the learning parts and community-based education.
So
Hila, would
before
you
we
get
do that, I want to validate what you just shared and really speak to the fact that we realize these days that a lot of the systems in what we can call the matrix that we grew up in and thought this is the way to live are actually collapsing, and they're collapsing by design. They were not meant to really serve humanity. And I mean, if I can just speak quickly to the education system, think about it. This was created about a century ago to an industrial revolution society where the intention of the elite, the oligarchy, to by creating the schooling system was to have an outcome of obedient and good workers that will work in the factories from morning to dawn and do what they were told to do. And although almost 100 years have passed, we can still look at our education system, even in the modern, what we call the Western world, and see how the same principles are still being applied. We have like the 9 to 3 or 9 to whichever hour it ends. We have like the short segments of children have to sit down quietly and listen to a frontal type of teaching by one teacher. We have the bell system, short breaks, not enough of fresh air, free play, imaginative play, throughout the years, the first thing that are being cut back are the arts, music, home ec, um, arts, crafts, drawing, painting, and those are innate ways that children express themselves in their formative years. So I think you get the picture. The school system as it is not here to really support us as human being. It is not encouraging real learning, real individuation, and self-exploration. So, with that in mind, as Michael and I were coming together and really thinking through what are the challenges that families are having these days, why it is so easy and convenient for them to choose the schooling system, and how we can surpass that. What can we offer that can answer their needs without too much of a compromise, and maybe even bring forth something very special and unique that they haven't even thought about? Because as we know it, these days, especially with high costs of livings, families, they work a lot. Two parents working 9 to 5, they drop off their kids in the morning, they pick them up in the afternoon, rush, 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 dinner, press repeat. The weekends time are often like, cleaning, tidying, shopping. How much quality time do we really spend with our children? And because we're so programmed to behave in a certain way out of fear, out of survival, many parents, when we actually help them to stop and rethink, it's very tough. They go through some grieving, they go through the understanding that, wait a minute, the whole process of healthy attachment with our children was not happening properly. There are other people that see our children the majority hours of the day than us, the parents. We can see the insanity of what the system have created, which affects our children. And we can see high rates of anxiety, depression, self-mutilation, and addictions, and so on and so on. So the consequences are exploding in our faces. So, yes, the learning pods was a way that it's not something that we've invented, but we've seen how there is a way for homeschoolers, people that actually chose to pull their children out of the public schools, the government schools, and homeschool, to come together and create a community of learners, what is known as a learning pod. And in that way, you can share the load. You're not alone. You have other people that you support and can support you. Every learning pod is different. The school system is very much a cookie cutter. And as Michael, you've shared, it's like we didn't feel like we were seen or heard. But in a mini school, in a learning pod, in a smaller setting, children get the attention that they need. They get the care. They can get to express themselves and be supported with their areas of interest, with where their strength and skills are. So it's so healthy and so important to create that environment for children. And so Michael and I were building up a course that was in the summer of 2021, and we offered an online course after Michael created a few events, and he was kind of testing the water with local parents to see what do they need, what can help them to actually take that leap of faith and start homeschooling. And then we built up this course. We ran it once, we've recorded it, and now it's an evergreen on our website by donation. It's 4 hours, and everybody can take it on their own time and pace and get back to it, because once you're signed up, it's yours and you can learn whenever you want. And so it has 4 modules. The first module is actually explaining what is a learning pod, how a pod can come together as a community, create, let's say, the safe container to have a dialogue and decide what their learning pod would look like in terms of how many days they come together, how long the day of learning would be, what do they want to study together, and more. So we teach them how to structure a learning pod in the first module. The second module is more so about education philosophies and core values. And what we come to realize is that a lot of people don't stop and they don't really even operate from what do they believe in? What do they want to leave as a legacy to their children? What are the things that they feel are important for their children to learn? When we sign up our kids to the public schools, we just drop them off and we don't even stop to think, wait a minute, who's the teacher? Do I know them? What community they belong to? And so in the learning pod, it's really a space for us to connect deeply, get to know each other, and understand our core values. Do we have a shared vision? Can we build one together? And then choose different types of educational philosophies that can work for us as a learning pod. The third module speaks to agreements. So, whenever we want to build something, it's important to have a very strong foundation and clear structure. So, we have forms and understanding, we have policies and procedures, so we know what are we entering into and how we can even come out of it should we choose to do that. And this is also, I think you mentioned, Michael, one can become a learning pod leader and take it on as a small business. And this is what part of what we teach at our course. The fourth model speaks to how to outreach to other families in the community, how to market, what marketing tools are available, and how to use them. So, in a nutshell, this is what our course is about. And we also have an ebook that may perhaps Michael, you want to speak a little bit about Michael Fraser about our ebook.
Yeah, so Michael.
Can I just respond to you, Hila, as a parent? I think there's a couple of different dynamics going on that most families in this day and age have to have two jobs to literally support themselves and or support their families. And so the time where the husband goes to work and the wife is at home, whether it's right or wrong, without judgment, just as a construct, as a model of one person
Mhm.
working, one person being at home and taking care of the children and raising the children. I think we have to come to realize that those times are over, or we've been forced into that model, if I can say it that way. The other thing that I also perhaps see a little bit is that children are being palmed off into the school system for the parents that perhaps don't have a certain level of consciousness, but they see the children as a burden, and so for them it's convenient to get them into a preschool or into the school system like that, because they know, well, I have my own time now from 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock until the child comes home. One of the key question that I would have in terms of still looking at our current infrastructure and university and the whole educational, the secondary educational system and university is, how can I, as a parent going through the learning part, prepare my kid to potentially still be eligible to enter university, which right now in our current structure is still the one way to perhaps create that deeper learning. And I don't think any of our, or in my community there wasn't a rocket scientist, so if I would want to study physics or astrophysics, or I would have to go into a specific subject, and would universities accept me if I would go through an educational system like this?
I think one thing that I would say is like children who grow up knowing their own ability to be in their power, to learn and to do in their life aren't going to take no for an answer. So if you want to do something with your life, you're not going to take somebody who's sitting at a desk telling you that you can't do it because they have something written on a paper that says that you can or can't. When you don't take no for an answer and you are following your passion, there's a way. There's always a way. I've heard stories of somebody who grew up, and only did religious schooling growing up, didn't do any academic schooling, and was self-taught and became a surgeon. But the way that that happened, from the story that I was told, was that he went into the admissions office and asked what he needed in order to get in, because he didn't have the same high school transcripts that other people would have. And really the story comes down to not taking no for an answer, saying, hey, what's the next step? And if you're not giving me the answer that's helping me get to the next step, to go to somebody else who can give you a step forward and not be turning you away. I mean, getting a high school diploma isn't necessarily something that is impossible. You can do that. You can challenge a lot of these things that are, markers of what your intelligence level, if you need to communicate that along the way. But I would encourage people to really consider that the world is changing really fast, and what you're going to need in 5, 10 years, even in the next few years, is just different. You have to show up differently. You have to engage differently. And I think having confidence in what you have to offer is going to take people into that realm where they're able to see themselves as the entrepreneurs that they were born to be, the creators, the co-creators, the people who are going to be having the confidence to say, hey, you know what? This is how I am showing up in my life, and you take it or leave it, and they'll find the right people. And that's what I trust.
Yeah, and
And
it
I'd like to add to that. And Michael Krauss, I agree with you 100%. I mean, consciousness is everything. And a lot of parents would still choose to stay in the system, go through the what we call the enslavement, and not wake up to other possibilities. And that's okay. We're on different timelines. However, the parents that are waking up to what is really going on, to how they themselves are not happy and not feeling good in their previous choices, all they need is the support and empowerment to dig deeper, to understand who they truly are, to raise their vibrations and frequency, and to shift to the level of trust. And this is key. Trust is key. When we talk to parents, one of the things that we figure out is that it's really important to have them create that shift in their perception from victimhood to empowerment. They are creators. They are the authority for their children's education, well being, and any other decision making. No one else. We have been giving our power away for eons of time to what we call the experts, the authority, the government, the doctors, the teachers. And that, not to say that everything is wrong there and all the people in those systems are bad actors. However, I think it's time for us to reclaim our power. And I
And
see
also our children are learning from that too. So if they see that we're constantly outsourcing our power, like, oh, you can't do this because someone's going to say that you can't, or you can't do this because of they're seeing and they're walking in that example. But if we show them that we have faith in our own path, they're going to have faith in their own path too. I
yeah, and
just wanted to interject.
I
absolutely.
I also believe that this model of education allows for greater problem solving and critical thinking. And I believe that this is perhaps some of the qualities that are going to be needed more and more in the future, and that employers are also looking for. And in part of my life, I had whatever I had up to 16 employees, and within that, I was looking for that critical thinking. I was looking in communication skills with customers, and I was looking for collaboration and cooperation and attention to detail and most of all presence in the current moment, because that's where all the magic happens, and that's where the solutions happen. That's where my power lies, and that's where I can be most effective. So I also believe, I just wanted to early on point out that perhaps old-fashioned thinking about university and how do I get and how do I advance and how do I become an engineer and how can I, and I'm saying that things are going to change, and I believe also what is going to be needed in the very near future, if we continue to go down that path in terms of humanity, are those skills that are needed, like gardening, like farming, like cooking, like canning, like taking care of the land and taking care of yourself, and do it in a way that is community based. And so where can people learn about New Earth Network, and what could that look like, and how can people get in touch with you, and how can they learn more? I also know that you had, I think it was a PDF that you had sent me with an outline of maybe you can speak about that as well.
Yeah, so everything is on our website. It's www.newearthnetwork.ca. They can find our course. They can find some interviews that we've done in the past with local interviewers and international. We've just came back from a conference called the People's Reset. It used to be called the Greater Reset, organized by Derek Bros and his partner Miriam Gomez. This was a 5 days conference that brought together thinkers, educators, entrepreneurs, innovators, and people from all around the world to come and share from their experiences, their new businesses they have developed, new education, new ways of creating alternative media, agriculture, parallel societies. And this is what Michael and I are in alignment with. It's basically the philosophy of exit and build. So we're really about, we're solution oriented. It's about co-creating and collaborating in the new earth to find what fits for us as we're growing and evolving to a different reality, which is not what is being imposed on us, but what can we vision together and the possibilities that we can imagine and
And
bring in
along,
reality.
and along the way, what one of the things that we really get to recognize is how it is a choice. It's a decision. We are voluntarily engaging with the system the way that it is, and we get to choose to do it differently.
Well,
So our website would be a great place to check us out. We are on Facebook under New Earth Network. We have an Instagram page, and we're very personable and accessible. You can email us via the website with any questions you have, any ideas, anything that you think we can support you with. Once a month, we've created an event. We call it a podluck, which is a Learning Pods Potluck. And we bring together a community, more so around Vancouver, where we live, and the families that we already have formed as a community. And we come together, we start with a potluck and with some uh, building community activities. Then we move to sharing and discussion. There's a different topic that we bring in every podlock. So I encourage people to check our podlocks and to come. Those are meeting in person, which are very, very valuable, as we want to learn how to connect as human beings, are to be with each other's company and aura, and form great ways of conversation, compassion, communication, and so on. So meeting in person is another value that we appreciate. And we are also invited to other communities to facilitate events, and we do that as well.
And I know that the next pod lug is going to be on Saturday, and I'm going to be there, and I'm looking. It's my first time that I'm going to be in within that community, and I believe that this is probably right now our greatest opportunity, but also our greatest responsibility. Is we need to come together. We need to learn about our needs. We need to learn about our neighbors, our communities, what is needed, and most importantly, how can we collaborate and cooperate to create a better world, but also to be there for one another. Because from what I feel, times are not going to perhaps get easier. I think we're in a time of challenge, and so how can we really come together in the spirit of humanity, in the spirit of our communities, and it starts with communities. And what I always say
Absolutely.
is, real change happens with real people in real communities in real time, and that's where it starts. And so how can we support each other? And so I'm really looking forward to getting to know some of the people that are going to be attending there, and I would imagine that both of you are going to be there, and can't wait to wrap my arms around you again. And how can we build those communities, not just all over British Columbia or Vancouver or Canada, but all over the world. And I believe that is what is being asked of us right now, and
Hmm. Hmm.
specifically.
And the beauty is that there is a network of communities that has started already, and it's growing exponentially, Michael. And as you were saying, presence is the gift that we can give each other. And you can see it when we come together in person, how we open up our hearts and magic happens, and people start to brainstorm and think about projects and exchange information and just share deeply from their experiences, thoughts, feeling. This is what we are. We're human beings. We were meant to be in our tribe and enjoy each other and share and collaborate and grow and develop. So thank you for giving a platform to speak up about it.
And one of the foundational principles that I understand about the podlatch is that it is historically a way to be able to redistribute the wealth among the tribe and to be able to bring what you have to the table. And I really feel that connection with what we need. We all have our different forms of abundance that we've cultivated in our lives. Sometimes that's economic, sometimes that is in the skills that we've built, sometimes that's in the people that we've met, that we have good relationships with. We all have our ways that we're abundant. And what I trust is that if we all bring that to the table, just the way that we all bring a dish of food or something valuable to our group meetings, that there's more than enough to share. And it's just about discovering that. Hmm.
And I believe that there's also an opportunity to perhaps overcome some fear, because we perhaps step into a new community, we step into a new experience, we step into something that we don't really know. And so
Hmm.
naturally with that comes a sense of fear, and am I good enough? Can I bring enough? And do I fit in there? And am I going to be heard and seen and respected? And what I would like to encourage all of us really is to overcome that fear, that we really have to come together and start healing not just
Mm-hmm.
ourselves but our relationships with others, and forgive ourselves for the damage, or for the pain that we've inflicted upon ourselves and others, and Mother Earth. And the first step might feel a little bit uncomfortable, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I also feel that the reward afterwards is far greater than the feeling of uncomfortableness,
Mm-hmm.
for the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also, if somebody within the Zoom room wants to ask any questions for Hila or for Michael, to please raise their hands, and it will take me a few or half a minute to bring them in on camera. And so please, if you have any question, raise your hand, and you can be part of the the podcast.
In the meantime, I want to share a little bit of a success story that we've heard from one of the families that took our course a few years ago. When we were in Mexico, we got this message through Facebook, and this woman, Vanessa, was asking if we're physically in Puerto Vallarta. And we said yes. She said, guys, we're coming to pick you up and take you for dinner because we're so grateful. We moved to Mexico from Vancouver, Canada, about 5 years ago. And 3 years ago, we took your course step by step. We started a small school, and now we have a school with about 22 students. We've moved on an organic farm outside of Puerto Vallarta, and we're so happy and excited about what else we can create. So that was, when we say we're of service to humanity and our community, it's so great to see that whatever we put out there is actually being picked up, and people have found the course very helpful. And that's the greatest joy that Michael and I are reaping from all the hours, the time, and the effort we put into our website and course and ebook, events and meeting. We've been spending a lot of time. And Michael, when you build a new platform or a community, a movement, it's a full-time job and more. But to know that there are families out there that got the courage to leave the system and to co-create something new, and they're thriving. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best reward ever.
Well, we do have somebody in the audience, Trudy, who wants to ask a question. If I may bring her in.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes, please.
Hi, Trudy. Honored to for you to be part of this podcast. And can you tell us where you coming in from?
Coming in from Gibson's, British Columbia.
Beautiful.
And they've given us a reprieve from the overcast, cloud, drizzle, rain. It's sunny at the moment.
Yeah, it's sunny over here too. Awesome. So you had a question for Hila or Michael?
Well, more of a comment, really.
On
Just a heartfelt gratitude for what you two, or I actually, the first time I've been on your podcast, but what you two are doing is just fantastic, because I too I have been in the childcare profession for a long time, and ever since the pandemic, my clowning career, because I used to clown, and I've worked in daycares, and I've worked in school systems. I've taught gymnastics, trampoline for many, many, many years, and it's just never been it's never resonated with me. The kids never seem to want to go to daycare. Half the time they're crying, I don't want to go to daycare. And I thought, why? What are we doing to these poor darling children? And anyhow, it's just and I'm hearing more and more that people are putting the children, but they're unschooling their kids, and homeschooling is becoming more and more popular. And I just the movement is amazing. And I just thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Judy, for listening and for joining in and for sharing your experience. Um, and do you wanna any one of you want to respond? Hila, Michael.
I just want to thank you, Trudy. And it's true, the pandemic time was very difficult, very challenging on our children, on educators, on parents. And with every adversity, there are lessons to be learned. And I feel that this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to see if something doesn't serve us anymore, what else can we do? How can we make it better? And you're right. The homeschooling rates have gone exponentially, doubled itself in Canada since 2020. There's also, you mentioned the term unschooling, and in Canada, it is legal to pull your children completely out of the system. So when you homeschool, you register with a school district and you still somewhat accountable. You have to report once in a while about your child progress and coverage of some of the curriculum. But in Canada, people can actually completely unschool or deschool. They don't have to register their children within the education system, and they are the sole educators, mentors, guides for their children from the time they're born until the time that the children are independent. And that enables so many beautiful things that our fast paced society, that the matrix and the enslavement are not enabling us. And Michael, you talked about presence, about slowing down, about staying connected to yourself, to your children's needs, to your environment, to nature. How can we create our day in the most beautiful way? How can we engage our children in the life that we live, whether it's in the city or in the outside cities and rural places? Children are part of our lives, and it's so important to give them that power and to have them be a valid partner. And I'd like to mention two women. One of them, her name is Tasha Fishman. Please look her up, Tasha Fishman. She's the queen of unschooling. She has her own podcast and her platforms, and there's so much to learn from her about unschooling and her own personal journey of how she has woken up to this possibility that completely changed her life for the best, of course. And then I want to mention Lainey Liberty. Lainey is talking for years about parents' partnership. So, how to be a parent from a different perspective, not so much as an authority and a dictatorship, but from a place of partnership, of listening. Yes, with healthy boundaries, but with more of freedom of making decisions together and being very respectful to our children for who they are and how they express their needs. And she has a great book that I highly recommend. It's called Heard, Seen, and Understood, Lainey Liberty. Very valuable book for parents out there.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And if there is anybody else in the audience who would have a question, please raise your hand. Um, and otherwise we're going to be coming to an end, or to the end of our show. And is there anything with some last words that you want to share, Hila and Michael?
Well, one thing I wanted to share was that, it's clear we're going through a transition because even, the schools that we know from the Industrial Revolution style schooling, it's changing, like the way that things are happening in our world is obviously changing. The difference that we want to see is that in this shift, we want to have input. And the input that we want is to be closer with our community so that it's no longer sending our children to school where it's the school itself, the teachers, the administration are all part of different communities other than the ones that we are part of. Really, realistically, when we go home, we're not having anything to do with a lot of these folks that are running our school system. And so it's not, about them being wrong or not, that we don't want them a part of our community, but it's about us actually creating community revolving around our children. And I feel that's the most important thing. It's the motivating factor for me. Becoming a father was the most inspirational and activating journey that I've been on in my life. It really puts into perspective what is meaningful in this life. And really, it comes down to leaving a legacy that our children can continue. And if we're not in the same community as our children, how do we expect them to carry our legacy? And so we need to start with the groundwork when it takes building community, where it requires us to build community together.
You just made a comment around teachers not being part of our community. When I think back in my school days, the last thing that I wanted to see outside of the school was my teachers.
Uh-huh.
And so you just eye opened it was an eye opener for me to say, well, why did do we grow up in a school system where we almost don't want our teachers to become part of our extended outside of the school life, and not consciously not being part of our community? And what an interesting perspective you just offered here. And maybe that's how we need to look at it. How can we include the children, and or how can we include the teachers into our communities, and what motivates them really? Because I
Yeah.
believe that teachers, like farmers, are some of the most important occupations that we have in our society.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, Michael. And I'd like to say what we usually, our tagline is community is our immunity. And it does take a village to raise children. And we want to get to know the people in the village, whether they're the farmers, the teachers, the woodworkers, the bakers, people that are part of how we live life and what makes life meaningful. And we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
We are getting empowered, and we are reprogramming our minds to understand that we have the knowledge. Our children are super intelligent. They don't need to be taught by an authority. They just want to have the freedom to explore, and mentors to be supported and guided by within our community. And we have the resources.
In that sense, I would like to thank everybody for watching. I would like to thank you, Hila and Michael, for coming onto the show today, and our audience all over the world. And like you said, we are the ones we've been waiting for. So until next time, take care of yourself, and I will see you on Saturday in person. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.